Mr. Wasserman, I do believe you're with us.
Yes, I am. Pleasure to be here.
We're just a little late, and I'm sorry about that, but I did want to get in. What are the current business trends that we're dealing with right now?
Well, we're seeing a number, three in particular, that are popping up for us at of particular interest. One is just the continued move towards lean and flat organizations, and really what the implications are for leaders and individuals in terms of decision-making getting pushed out to the edges, and some of the implications for organizational culture and structure. With that also is a move towards asking people to be more innovative, so there's this dynamic tension, if you will, between flatter organizations but needing to think differently. And then certainly a third one currently that's quite prevalent is just as the millennials become more and more a significant portion of the employee population and are moving into leadership positions. There's a whole issue about leading millennials and also how do we support organizations to really create a kind of a different working environment maybe than some of us have been used to.
Well, yeah, a very different working environment. You know, one of the things we're observing because of the I used to teach management, so bear with me, with the effort and the stress on profits, is middle managers throwing away their integrity to simply do what they're told, and it's created a very disloyal workforce. How do we deal with that?
Yeah, it's, creating, focusing on what we call ideation and really trying to bring back and make the connection between what a firm is focusing on at the highest level, that kind of longer-term sense of purpose and identity, can really help engender, more of that commitment and engagement. And particularly when we think about millennials, but I think all age groups, and all categories, Gen X and the like, is that we're looking to feel that our work, that the time that we're putting in a work environment is making a difference, and the ability of leaders and managers to help connect those dots, if you will, can really go a long way. Not easy, but really critical.
No, that is a real responsibility. Now, what brings you to us today?
Well, we've recently we studied 2080 Strategy Execution, my firm. We help individuals and organizations on a global basis improve workplace performance through project-based work.
No, that's why I wanted to have you with us, and I'm annoyed with myself that we got to you late. We ran a little late because of some preemptions. Can you stay with us after the break, or perhaps come back at about 9:05? Do you know?
Yeah, I'd be glad to.
All right, so can you come back or at 9:05? Or stay with me after the break? Your choice. Okay, we'll do the latter because we do have to go to traffic and weather, and I want to finish this conversation, so bear with me. This is so very important and near and dear to my heart for all kinds of reasons, particularly as it relates to millennials whose work ethic and strive to complete stuff is not what it ought to be. So when we come back, we'll talk business. Stay there, folks. Welcome back. This is the morning show here on News Talk 1230 WFAS and worldwide at WFASAM.com. We got to our next guest mid-segment, so I asked him to stay after school, and school is what he does. He's the Chief Learning Officer and for his firm, and he's talking about workplace performance. Please welcome back Tim Wasserman. And I want to thank you, Tim, for staying with us while we got that resorted. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Well, and this is when I needed to get a little bit of help. And I know you're informed, your company is informed by Stanford University. You have a relationship with them, and you do workplace performance consulting, et cetera. I used to have a term when I was teaching management, and I derived it from a guy who would always answer every question when he didn't want to take responsibility, because in the book, or it's no me. And I have found in more recent days a lack of teamwork that borders on being frightening. And very frankly, it evolves out of our millennials who are used to doing everything online, by email, off their phone. I took care of what I have to do, and the problem's gotten worse instead of better. Why?
Well, I think while that many people are running into that, what we've seen is that in organizations that are successfully working with the millennial workforce, what they're really doing is recognizing some of those factors that are important to millennials. While they are highly technologically enabled, they also are looking for more of an inspirational and a personal touch. There's actually a recent study that the frequency of manager feedback has as much impact on millennials' decisions to engage and stay in a workforce as some of the other factors that are more commonly held around the meaningfulness of work and contribution.
That's a wonderful thing. And but now we then elevate to the fact that one of the weakest components of American industries become middle management, in my view. And I've written pieces about this. I am so disappointed in what's evolved in middle management, the lack of training for them, and even the lack of ethics given to them.
Well, unfortunately, and I would have to agree with you, often when we're focused on short-term results in organizations, some organizations feel that education is a luxury rather than a critical skill development set, and particularly as we see more of the Gen X and the baby boomers moving to retirement, we need to invest and provide opportunities for the emerging middle management leaders to deal with not just the simple, technical type skill sets, but what we call relational skills, and even a strategic mindset.
Sure. Now, the name of your company again, with all my notes here. What's the name of your firm?
It's 2080 Strategy Execution.
Okay, because I obviously like what you do and what you stand for, and you can tell I have a bug in my craw because I cared a lot about this, taught it for many years, was in that field for many years. For example, and I'll out them right now, I used to work for a firm called Merrill Lynch, ran their training, so it was a great career for the most part until the capital markets and institutional people took over. And I used to laugh every day I walked out the door and saw a statement we used to use called respect for the individual. The firm evolved to where it had anything but that. And and these millennials see right through that. I give them credit for that. They see right through that phoniness.
I think everybody does at this day and age, and that you're looking around with flatter organizations. The transparency of what's happening in many instances is right in front of people. They're making decisions and having an impact. I think we have the opportunity to work with lots of organizations. Certainly, live out in the San Francisco Bay Area, so have some influence by some thinking in Silicon Valley and the like. But it's really expanded much beyond that, and finding ways to immerse people in the values and the culture and true immersion. Facebook has a onboarding process, as most large organizations have. But one of the significant things they do, not every organization is going to give free food and dog walking services, and I make light of that, but it's meaningful. But more importantly, what they do is they push responsibility to new employees immediately. So when they talk about values, cultural values, about make a difference, about who's the customer. There was a programmer who joined them who had been at 15 years at a very large global firm that we would all recognize. She said, I did more actual programming that touched customers in my 6-week onboarding process than I did in the previous 10 years.
Oh, I bet.
So, the connection, and a lot of that does go to the ability of managers and leaders to make the connection. Some of that is structurally setting it up in such a way that you create an environment where people can take some risks. They see they're not going to be punished if they fail, and then they're more willing to engage more with their discretionary income.
And the way they're incented, and even the culture. The firm I spoke about, which I speak about openly because they no longer exist in that form, and so I can comfortably do so. When I came through that firm originally, we really believed in what we did. We used to say the customer's interest comes first. We used to talk about we never want to be in the newspapers. We will admit to our errors early. And then when the institutional people took over the firm, they actually spoke ill of individual customers. Like, you're working on that? Oh, what's that guy? An individual? Oh, we don't care about. All they wanted to do was deal with governments and corporate entities, and they had disdain, open disdain for individual clients. And we watched the culture of this great company become toxic. How do we keep that from happening today and have people, as I have, who loved that company, lost so much respect for it? How do we keep that from happening?
Well, I really think it does start at the very top. Inspirational leaders and leaders who have a more balanced perspective. I had the opportunity recently to spend some time with Ed Catmull, who's the president of Pixar Animation and Disney Animation, and there's really genuine leadership now.
Really? Because you walk in the door of these places and you find out that the guy, not him necessarily, but is a two-bit phony that will just say the right thing and put the nice slogans on the door and not really mean it.
Well, I think it's putting slogans. Every organization that I've dealt with in my professional career generally has this espouse statements, right, and the badges and the posters.
Yeah,
it's those that actually you can look at the behaviors, look at what's reinforced. You had made a good point earlier about what kind of behavior is rewarded institutionally by the organization. That really, and people look at that. Those are the kinds of things they notice. They also notice subtle things. You know, who parks where? I mean, even though in many organizations now they're not parking spaces.
Let me ask you another question apropos of this, because people do see through this as well. We are very close, and we see it in every aspect of the culture, even the kind of violence that we have. America's evolved. America's business climate has evolved into every man and woman for themselves. How do millennials react to that?
Well, I think, in fact, you know, you see the amount of movement, not just with millennials, but certainly they get the most the most recognition for that. But you see people leaving organizations on a much more frequent basis.
They don't drink the Kool-Aid. I love these kids for this. They don't drink any of that nonsense anymore.
The opportunities are out there, and they recognize that you know they can move, and they're not you know the agreement, if you will, the employment agreement that you and I are probably a little closer in terms of our experience and age, and you know that employment agreement doesn't exist anymore, and so it's really incumbent on firms to reach out in other ways to try and to solidify that and to get people to stay for longer periods of time.
Hey, Tim Wasserman, listen, I've got to go. I could talk with you all day. I hope you can bring your message to more and more firms. 2080 is the name of the firm. How can people find out more information about your company? And you're welcome back here anytime.
Well, I appreciate that. It's been a pleasure. If people are interested in more information, they could go to www.StratEx, that's strategyEX.com.